Good morning, student. Let us continue our third chapter, that is business environment. In the last video, we have discussed the elements of business environment. That was the 5 elements that we have already discussed. That was economic, social, technological, political, and legal environment. Now, today we will discuss the new industrial policy 1991. Previous so many policies were formed, but this policy was introduced by the government because Indian economy faced a serious foreign exchange crisis during this period, high government deficit and a rising trend of prices despite bumper crops. So in India, government announced a new industrial policy in July 1991. The main aim of this new industrial policy was to create a more competitive environment in the economy and to remove the barriers of entry and growth of the firm. So this leads to new industrial policy basically uh, uh, introduced drastic reduced the LPG system. LPG here stand for liberalization, privatization and globalization. The main essence of this new industrial policy 1991 was the three main components. One was liberalization, second is privatization and third is globalization. Liberalization means removal of unnecessary control and restrictions on business. See here, first is removal of restrictions. Licensing means no need to take the licensing, that de-licensing policies were formed, and simplifying the procedure, that lengthiest process were replaced by a very simple process to start the business, and all projects were de-licensing, no need to take license, you can start the business. And reductions in tariff tax structure, that is to promote the business, that so many tariff system and tax system were simplifying and giving more freedom to the business class. So this was the policy of new policy of the government. And then is privatizations, that increasing the participation of private sector, that is that decreasing the role of public sector. The role of public sector was limited only to 4 industries of strategic importance, that is defense, arm and all. Basically importance were given to private sector, and reducing the number of industries and sector reserved for public sector, and sale of securities of public sector to private sector, that is disinvestment means selling the part of the whole or part of the or whole of the shares to the private sector, that is to privatize the public sector. And globalization means integration of different countries of the world, means now the firm is free to enter and exit from the country's boundary to another international market, and easy entry of foreign companies were also allowed, given the permission by the government. Easy to so many multinational companies came into the market. So this was the main essence of the new industrial policy, the three keywords: liberalization, privatization and globalization. Let us discuss in detail what exactly is done in during the at the liberalization process. Means removal of unnecessary control and restrictions on business. Now MNCs were invited in the country, and it involves removal of entry and growth restrictions on the private sector enterprises, and end of license, permit and quota. The purpose was to unlock the economic potential of the country by encouraging private sector and MNCs to invest and expand. Means more emphasis were given to the private sector. And what are the way how this liberalization is taken place? First is abolishing of licensing requirement in most of the country, means delicensing. No need to take license, directly you can start production. No restriction on expansion and contraction of business activities, means all the business units are free to move from one state to another, one country to another. Then is removal of restriction on the movement of goods and services, means goods can be sold and purchased throughout the world. Throughout the world there was no restriction, and freedom in fixing of prices and prices of goods and services. Earlier there was a control over the fixing of prices, now it made it free, that you can fix, private sector can fix the prices of their goods and services. Reduction in tax rate and lifting of unnecessary control over the economy, means that is to make more freedom to the business class and reduce the tax rate, so that more and more business class can come into this line. And then is simplifying the procedure for import and export, means as we have already discussed in class 11, the various procedure to for importing and exporting, that make it very easier to conduct, to promote international business. And liberal process to attract foreign capital and technology to India, means easily you can hire the advanced technology from abroad, from other country, means import the capital goods with very minimum procedure and very minimum formalities, and import duties were made it free. So this what an FDI were invited, foreign direct investment in the country, to invest more and more. So this is what steps were taken by the government to liberalize this liberalization. And now come to the next, that is a privatization, means giving greater role to the private sector in the nation's building process and reduce the role to the public sector. How it was done? By disinvestment. What do you mean by disinvestment? That refers to selling a part or the whole of the share of public undertaking and transfer of public sector enterprises to private sector. And it that is uh, if private sector acquire more than 51% shares, would result in transfer of ownership. That we have already learned the concept of government company, how a company, public company, turn into government company simply by just undertaking 51% of the shares by the government company. And similarly government company turn into a public company by if the 51% of the shares hold by individuals or group of individuals, means this is one of the way to convert the public sector into a private sector. Next is setting up a board of industrial and financial reconstructions, that is BIFR. It was set up to revive or close loss making and sick PSU. Especially BIFR units were formed just to either if it was possible to revive, then it was revived, and otherwise all those PSU which were running on losses were closed down. So this was the step taken by the government during the process of privatization. And next is globalization. It means integrating the various companies of the world leading towards the emergence of cohesive or well integrated global economy. Means global here refers to means integrating of different countries of the world and made it easy entry of foreign companies. So there the restrictions were removed, tariff systems were simplified, tax system were reduced. So this is what the how the friendly atmosphere is created across the boundaries, so that other company can come into the India to do the business. And of course it is threat for the local market, but that is why the customers get more and more choices in product, various varieties of products made it available at the competitive prices. So this is what the initiative taken by the government, and this has made possible, this globalization leads to introductions of advanced technology into the business, and liberal trade policies by the government leads to uh, do the business across the world, throughout the world, and that leads to increase the foreign currencies. So this is what the initiative taken by the government to revive the economic crisis and improve the development of the economy. And all this three liberalization, privatization and globalizations, what impact of changes in economic policy on the business or effect of liberalization and globalization, that we will discuss in detail. What was the impact of this government policy? First is here the points were listed, uh, the changes, and that already given in the graph. First is that increasing the competition due to this policy, that leads to increase the competition, that delicensing and liberalized entry of foreign firms have increased the competition for Indian firms, especially in service industries like telecommunications, airlines, banking, insurance, etc., which were earlier reserved for the public sector. You can best see the example like banking reforms increase the competition for nationalized banks like SBI from domestic bank like ICICI and MNC's bank like HSBC. So you can see in the service sector that competitions were increased. Second is more demanding customers. Now the market, due to increase the competition in the market, gives the customers wider choice in purchasing better quality of goods and services. This has created buyers market in the country, and customers have become more demanding, they are well informed, and manufacturers take pain in satisfying their expectations. So now the market was customer oriented, not the supplier oriented. Third is rapidly changing technological environment. Use of advanced technology provides a competitive edge and help to improve machines, process, products and services. However, rapidly changing technology create tough challenges for smaller firms due to shortage of fund. Like for example, Tata spent huge amount on research and development of nano car, so that it can withstand ever changing technological environment. So this was the impact of government policy. Next is necessity for change, means uh, uh, the market forces have become uh, complex, and enterprises have to continuously modify their operations and policies. Means stable and business plan and policy used to continue for longer period of time, but now it is always be updated time to time due to changes in the environment. Next is need for developing human resources, means more emphasis were given to human resources, like due to as the Indian firms suffered a lot due to shortage of trained personnel. So now the new market conditions require people with higher competence and greater commitment. So that is why regular training were arranged for the employees, like on the job training, of the job training for their employee, so that to update their knowledge. Means more now the firm has realized the need to develop the human resources. Next is market orientation. However, increase in competition, and as the market were consumer oriented, the firm have shifted to market oriented. Earlier there was a selling approach, and that selling or production approach were reduced, exchanged to replaced by market oriented approach, means to study and analyze the need of the market first, and then produce the goods to satisfy the buyers in a effective manner. That because the market was customer oriented, so more emphasis were given to the customers and the and to satisfy the customers as per their need, the productions were taking place. Next is loss of budgetary support to public sector. Means here government has also reduced the financial support to PSU, that is the public sector undertaking. As PSU have realized that in order to survive and grow in the competitive world, they have to improve their performance and generate their own resources. They cannot rely on the government support, because government has reduced the support to the government. There was no budget or no any support was provided to the PSU, so they also improving their performance as much income they were generating, so that they can survive in the market. And then is giving the more emphasis to the export uh, as a motive of service. That is finally, so these all are the point that leads to the impact of government policies. And finally we can conclude that economic reforms have positively affected the Indian business and industries, and enterprises Indian enterprises have developed strategic and adopted the business process and procedure to meet the challenges of competitions. So it become more customer oriented and had adopted the measures to improve customer relationship and satisfaction. So while concluding this, we can say that these are the major changes taken place in the economy, Indian economy. Okay, so this what we have discussed, the new industrial policy 1991, why it took place, why it takes place, and what are the impact on the business. That also we have discussed in the several points. And please go through all the points, write the notes, make your own notes on, as I already explained, only the points, head points. That last one you just leave it, only you just explain 7 points, that is the impact of government policies, and write in your BST copy. Take the help of the book and go through the topic and write down the notes in your BST copy. And this is all about the this topic. Thank you so much.